came in here and beat up on my body.
I done come from that. Now I'm trying to go an opposite way. I don't want to be walking around cracking people in the head and drive-bying on people. That ain't me.
Pimp C has always been his own man. When he make up his mind to do whatever it is he want to do, that's what he gonna do.
Every region's got its own legends, and in the South, those legends don't just rap, they rule. But few stories hit harder than the clash between MasterP and Pimp C, two powerhouses whose visions of dominance exploded into a storm that blurred the line between music, money, and mayhem. Hotel rooms turned into battlegrounds. Phones were ringing off the hook in Houston with whispers of deadly favors being called in. It got so real that one of rap's most feared CEOs had to step in just to keep the peace before things turned deadly. This wasn't just another rap disagreement. This was a battle fueled by pride, ego, and survival instincts. And the fallout? It left scars so deep, both men carried them for years. The South's got stories that never make the headlines. Tales passed through mixtapes, club talk, and studio rumors, told by those who swear they saw it all go down. And right at the center of it stands two states with fire in their veins, Texas and Louisiana. Different roots, same obsession with respect. This is where the story of Pimp C, the fiery soul of UGK, and MasterP, the mastermind behind the No Limit empire, collides. What began as collaboration turned into chaos, one of the most shocking and talked about feuds in Southern rap history. At the heart of it all, the feud boiled down to two things that can make or break any empire: money and respect.
Once I found out Mama was cool with what was going on, and I felt like if Pimp was alive, would he speak on it?
Yeah.
I absolutely believe
He wasn't just another Southern rapper. He was a full-blown producer, a genius with that Texas flavor in his sound. He could craft hooks that stuck in your head, build beats that slapped from Houston clubs to Cadillacs cruising through the South, and lace every track with that raw, soulful bounce that made UGK legendary. Meanwhile, MasterP was deep in his grind. He was out in Richmond selling tapes straight from the trunk, flipping street hustle into a New Orleans powerhouse. The man was plotting an industry takeover, brick by brick, turning No Limit into a rap army with one mission: domination. When their paths finally crossed, it was supposed to be a power move for both sides. UGK brought that Texas credibility, that Southern stamp of approval money couldn't buy, while MasterP brought the reach, the business game, and the label muscle. Together, they linked up in 1996 on Break 'Em Off Something, off P's Ice Cream Man album. And that record changed everything. It was the track that took MasterP beyond Louisiana, putting him on the map for the entire South.
Two friends, I definitely felt I needed to step in. Master P wanted to be respected, and Pimp C wanted to be respected. To get both parties on one accord, where the subject of respect, that was the solution.
But behind the scenes, the celebration didn't last long. For Pimp C, that success came with a storm of business tension, royalties, credits, and unanswered questions about who really got paid. Who's getting what started echoing in studio circles, and before long, that friendly collaboration started feeling more like a setup. When Break 'Em Off Something blew up, the money talk got messy, and that's when the real fire started brewing. People close to Pimp C said he felt played. The money didn't match the weight he brought to that track. And for him, it wasn't just about a missing check. It was about respect. He poured his soul into that record, laid down the beat, crafted the hook, and brought the kind of presence that made the song hit. That's what helped MasterP reach a whole new level of fame. And to feel like that contribution wasn't properly honored, that burned deep. But here's the twist. The real breaking point didn't go down in a studio. It happened over a phone call, and it wasn't even Pimp C talking. It was his mother, Weslyn Monroe, better known as Mama Wes. Anyone who knew her knew she wasn't just family, she was his manager, his backbone, and the one keeping the wolves away from her son's business. So one day, Master P calls her up, trying to get Pimp C to come down to Baton Rouge for a session. Sounds simple, right? But Pimp C had already locked in a gig with an independent artist, who, by the way, had paid him the same $10,000 P was offering. For Mama Wes, business was business. The indie artist's money was just as green as anyone else's, and she wasn't about to break her word for a bigger name. But that didn't sit right with P. He allegedly fired back, saying the track she was protecting wasn't going anywhere, that his record was the one destined to blow up. And just like that, the tension snapped. This wasn't about schedules anymore. It was about power and pride. Mama West wasn't the type to bow down to industry pressure. She stood firm, telling MasterP straight up he couldn't just dictate the game on her terms. That phone call didn't just end, it exploded. Words were exchanged that cut way deeper than business talk, slicing into pride and family. Pimp C overheard the whole thing, and from that moment on, it wasn't about studio schedules or contracts anymore. It was personal. In his world, you never talked down to his mother. Not over money, not over music, not ever. That kind of disrespect hit different, and once it happened, there was no taking it back.
The dude came to Jay Prince to get permission to kill Chad, right? Yeah. And Jay Prince like, no, we got a lot of money on the line. This is my guy, and they gaffled him up.
Even though MasterP called back about 30 minutes later, trying to calm things down and agreeing to record the next day, the damage was already done. They went ahead and made the record, and yeah, it was a hit. But the trust? Gone. For Pimp C, that phone call was burned into memory. It wasn't just business anymore. It was about honor. And from then on, Pimp C made sure people knew exactly how he felt. On stage, in interviews, and at every packed show, he spoke his truth. He told the crowd about the argument, saying MasterP had disrespected his mother, that he had cursed her out. Whether that was exactly what happened or just how Pimp C heard it, it didn't matter anymore. The line had been crossed, and he was letting the world know loud and clear. Crowds started chanting right along with him. No Limit who? Fans turned those concerts into protest rallies, taking sides. And Pimp didn't stop at one city. Reports say he carried that same energy through multiple shows, feeding the feud like a wildfire. But this wasn't just venting anymore. It was a public declaration of battle. And in hip-hop, especially in those days, public humiliation could be deadly. Respect meant everything. And when you tried to snatch it away, especially in front of a crowd, there was always going to be a response. For MasterP, a man who built his entire empire on power and dominance, staying quiet was never an option. The tension between No Limit and UGK wasn't just rap drama. It was a collision of two dynasties, each representing pride, hustle, and the South's unshakable grind. MasterP's rise became the ultimate blueprint for independence. He didn't walk into record labels begging for a shot. He created his own lane from the ground up. It all started in Richmond, California, miles away from the Southern throne he'd later claim. Back then, there was no fancy office or million-dollar deal. Just P out the trunk of his car, selling CDs hand to hand, one grind at a time. He wasn't just pushing music. He was pushing vision.
You know, I named my company No Limit because there's going to be no limit to my success. And I named myself MasterP because I said I'm going to master whatever.
Before the world even knew what No Limit was, he was already stacking cash, building connections, and earning a rep as a man who could move product like nobody else. And when he finally brought the operation back home to New Orleans, everything changed. He stopped thinking like a rapper and started thinking like a mogul. He learned that the real power came from ownership. Owning your masters, controlling your distribution, and building your team from the inside. That's how No Limit Records transformed into a powerhouse. The brand wasn't subtle. It was loud, bold, and unapologetic. You couldn't escape it. With a roster packed with heavy hitters like Silk the Shocker, Mia X, Mystical, Fiend, and later even Snoop Dogg, MasterP had turned No Limit into a full-blown army ready for showdown. No Limit's roster looked limitless. The music just kept coming. New releases hitting stores almost every week. With Priority Records backing his national distribution, MasterP had the reach. But the heart of the grind stayed the same. Local, southern, and unstoppable. Nobody could outwork him, and he made sure everyone in the game knew it.
Outspoken, he could rap, he could sing, he could produce, he was a multi-talent.
Meanwhile, about 300 miles west, another kind of movement was rising. UGK was building an empire of their own straight out of Port Arthur, a city most people didn't even link to rap. It was small, industrial, quiet compared to Houston or Dallas, but that's exactly what made it real. Pimp C and Bun B were in those streets crafting something special, something that didn't sound like New York, LA, or even New Orleans. Pimp C was the architect, rapping, producing, composing, and designing a sound that could only come from Texas. It was raw, soulful, drenched in blues, with organs straight out of the church, heavy funk riffs, and the deep thump of that Roland 808. He called it country rap tunes, a sound that didn't follow trends, it set them. Then there was Bun B, the steady hand, the anchor. His tone demanded respect, that deep, deliberate cadence that pulled you in with every word. And Pimp C, he was the wild card, high-pitched, emotional, fiery one moment, smooth enough to croon the next. Together they struck perfect balance, turning their southern slang and street stories into something that didn't need validation from the coasts. It was authentic, it was home, and that's where their paths began to cross. By the mid-90s, No Limit was rising fast, and MasterP was looking to cement his hold on the entire South. UGK already had the streets locked in Texas and Louisiana, and Pimp C's beats carried the kind of grit that MasterP loved. Add Bun B's voice, that weight, that authority, and it was the perfect storm for a Southern takeover. When they linked up on Break 'Em Off Something in 1996, it was more than just a collaboration. It was history in the making.
I built No Limit on $10,000. I put up my own posters. I went to every hood. I started taking my van and going from hood to hood, selling my CDs. That's the whole thing. I started selling it out of the
The track became one of MasterP's biggest breakout moments, uniting two Southern powerhouses at the height of their grind. For a short while, it looked like a perfect match. Both sides winning, both feeding off the other's energy. But from the very start, there were cracks beneath the surface. MasterP moved like a businessman first and an artist second. Every step was strategy, leverage, ownership, expansion. That's how he thought. Every verse and every deal had a purpose behind it. Pimp C, though, he was built different. He was all heart, all principle. The music came first, the message mattered, and respect was everything. Sure, the money counted, but never more than his pride or what he stood for. So when the tension started bleeding into the music, that's when the streets really tuned in. Pimp C wasn't the type to stay silent. If he felt something, you were gonna hear it. He turned his frustrations into clever, coded shots buried in his lyrics. One track, he'd talk about fake hustlers. The next, he'd slide in a slick line about someone trying to control his time or disrespect his family.
10 years old, we doing shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we really wasn't no serious money. I think we were getting $500 a show.
To the casual listener, it sounded like typical rap talk, just bars. But for those close to the situation, they knew exactly who those words were aimed at. That mic became his weapon. And every verse was another shot fired in a silent conflict that was quickly getting loud. When it came to shots being fired, Pimp C didn't hold back, and neither did MasterP. Man, listen, Pimp C was a character, bold, unpredictable, and always ready to stir things up. He called out names, stood on business, and made sure people felt his energy. But MasterP had his own way of clapping back, and his strategy was way colder. Instead of throwing lyrical jabs, MasterP used presentation as his weapon. No Limit's whole image turned into a statement. That polished, heavy, military-style branding felt like a marching band mixed with street power. Everything revolved around the tank, the soldiers, the empire. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about showing dominance, proving who really ran the South. MasterP didn't need to drop names. His covers, his chants, his hooks all spoke for him. Every beat screamed, "We're bigger, we're stronger, and we can't be touched." It was a message built into every move he made. Meanwhile, UGK was coming from a totally different angle, raw, dirty, and soaked in Texas soul. Soon, it started to feel like two different Souths were facing off. One clean-cut and structured, the other wild and authentic. Fans began reading between the lines, dissecting lyrics like detectives. In Texas, people swore they heard Pimp C taking shots at MasterP. They'd replay the tracks, circle the bars, and whisper, "That one's for No Limit." Down in Louisiana, though, it was loyalty to the core. MasterP wasn't just a rapper. He was a symbol of New Orleans' hustle and success. So when UGK threw shade, No Limit fans brushed it off as jealousy, saying the Texas boys just couldn't handle the rise of the tank. But the truth ran deeper. UGK wasn't chasing fame. They already owned the Southern Underground, and that's exactly what made this clash so real.
Pimp C, man. Listen, bro, the man is such a character, bro. He dismantled.
UGK had something money couldn't buy: credibility. Their sound wasn't manufactured. It was born in Texas. It lived in the car culture, the block parties, the slow, heavy rhythm of country rap tunes that told real Southern stories. And when Pimp C started sliding subliminals, they weren't just sneak disses, they were warnings. He wanted the world to know he wasn't anyone's soldier, wasn't anyone's employee. He was his own boss, period. And if that meant burning bridges to prove his independence, he was fine striking the match himself. One performance from that era showed just how blurred the line between music and real-life tension had become. Before Pimp C even dropped a verse, he stopped the entire show, grabbed the mic, and called out a hoe dude from Louisiana for disrespecting his mama. The crowd went crazy. Thousands of fans chanting in unison, "Feud MasterP!" It was no longer coded or subtle. It was direct, it was emotional, and it was live for the whole world to see. That energy stuck with people, burned into memory as the night UGK drew their line in the sand. From that point on, every UGK verse with a sharp line felt heavier. The beef gave both sides ammunition. It turned songs into statements. For Texas fans, every UGK record became a battle anthem. And for No Limit supporters, every release packed with features and big-budget visuals became proof that their empire was untouchable. Instead of cooling down, the feud spread faster. It wasn't just lyrics anymore. It was city versus city, culture versus culture. The South was divided, and everyone had to pick a side. And then came the breaking point, when Master P's next move didn't drop in a verse, but behind closed doors, in a hotel room. Here's where everything spiraled out of control.
He has always been his own man. When he make up his mind to do whatever it is he want to do, that's what he gonna do.
Pimp C was staying at the Residence Inn in Sugar Land, Texas, working on Ridin' Dirty. It wasn't his usual spot. His go-to hotel downtown was packed. But this one just so happened to sit deep inside what many considered Master P's territory. According to multiple accounts, from his mother, his close friends, and even Pimp's own retelling, one night turned into chaos. The door to his room was forced open. A group of masked men stormed in, and right there among them, Pimp claimed, was Master P himself. They pinned him down, and with gloves on, P allegedly started swinging, striking him with a pistol across his face and ribs. This wasn't just a random beating, it was a message. And to drive it home, Pimp later said that at the end of it all, the mask came off, and Master P looked him gone in the eye, making sure he knew exactly who was behind it. The aftermath was brutal. Pimp C suffered a concussion, and Mama Wes believed he had cracked ribs. He was shaken to his core, not only by the pain, but by the way it went down. In his mind, if there was a problem, it should have been handled man to man, face to face. Fair fight, win or lose. But being jumped and held down while another man swung on him, that broke every street code he stood on. And to make matters worse, the timing couldn't have been more devastating. UGK was right in the middle of recording Ridin' Dirty, the very project that would go on to define Southern rap for years to come. What was supposed to be their defining moment had suddenly turned into a nightmare that would scar Pimp C forever.
P had the gloves on and was going to work on them, and it came up in the hotel room. And that was pretty much how they...
After the attack, everything changed for Pimp C. He couldn't focus. The studio sessions stalled. His energy was gone, and his spark for music dimmed. He was hurt, angry, and distracted. And that fire he once had was buried under frustration and pain. Ridin' Dirty got delayed for months. And even his crew later admitted that for a while, he completely lost his drive. It took serious time before he could even want to step back into the booth again. And if that attack was supposed to squash the beef, it backfired badly. Instead of closing the chapter, it carved the wound even deeper. Pimp C felt betrayed, disrespected, and humiliated. Not just physically, but emotionally. The feud had crossed a line. It wasn't about money, contracts, or business anymore. It was personal, branded in scars and bruises he'd never forget. In the South, pride runs deep, and when respect gets violated, tempers can explode fast. That's exactly what this became, a cycle of retaliation, threats, and broken loyalty that could have easily turned tragic. Both men had too much pride, too much power, and way too much ego to just walk away quietly. By the early 2000s, all that weight started crushing Pimp C from the inside. The hotel incident, the constant sneak disses, the paranoia of seeing his name pop up in beefs all over the South. It wore him down. He kept the UGK name alive, still dropped verses, still carried the flag, but behind the scenes, his personal life was crumbling. And then came the breaking point, 2002. That's when the law caught up to him.
And man, P came in here and beat up on my body.
Pimp C was sentenced to 8 years for aggravated targeted attack, a punishment that shocked the industry and sent waves through the entire Southern rap scene. The man who helped shape the sound of Texas was now facing the hardest chapter of his life. The case that landed Pimp C behind bars came from an altercation where a weapon was allegedly involved, the kind of heat that wasn't new to his world, but this time it caught up with him. When the judge dropped that sentence, it hit like a gut punch, not just for UGK, but for the entire South. Pimp wasn't just another rapper. He was a pillar of Texas hip-hop, the man who demanded respect for country rap tunes. And suddenly, he was gone. Bun B wasted no time. He launched the now iconic Free Pimp C campaign, mixtapes, t-shirts, concert shoutouts. It became a movement. From Houston to New York, artists were showing love, screaming his name, keeping his legacy alive while he was locked away. But even with all that support on the outside, the reality behind bars was cold.
Two friends, I definitely felt I needed to step in. MasterP wanted to be respected, and Pimp C wanted to be respected. To get both parties on one accord where the subject of respect, that was...
Pimp C refused protective custody. He wasn't about to hide from anyone. As he later explained, he couldn't stand the thought of sitting in a cell alone, cut off from the world. So, he stayed in general population, moving through different Texas units, facing everything head-on like the man he was. And in there, something wild happened. He became a folk hero. Inmates respected him, admired how he came from their same struggle, and still made it big without selling out. To them, he was proof that staying real still mattered. But even that fame came with shadows. The walls didn't dull his paranoia. They sharpened it. Pimp would later talk openly about how prison guards targeted him, how being locked up in Texas meant constantly running into people who either hated him for his name or wanted something from him. The fame that once fueled his rise was now haunting him. Even behind bars, the pressure never stopped. Inside those prison walls, Pimp C was living a double life, half artist, half storm. On one side, he was writing songs, mentoring younger rappers, and keeping his creative fire alive. But on the other side, he was boiling inside. Every night, he replayed the betrayals in his head, the people who crossed him, the ones who disrespected him, and especially that unfinished business with MasterP. Even locked away, the ghost of that hotel room never left him. To the streets, that story had become legend. To Pimp, it was unfinished business. And while he was behind bars, the rumors outside just kept multiplying. Whispers spread about UGK affiliates clashing with No Limit associates, tense moments in clubs, crews sizing each other up at shows, close calls that almost turned ugly. It never erupted into full-blown battle, but everyone felt the tension. And with Pimp stuck inside, every rumor hit harder. feeding his paranoia and distrust. He didn't know who was really looking out for him, who was plotting, or who might be waiting on the outside. But the scariest moment came when talk started circulating that someone from MasterP's circle had made a serious call, asking for permission to take Pimp C off the board completely. In the South, nothing like that could move without the green light from one man, James Prince. J. Prince was the silent power behind Rap-A-Lot Records, the kind of man whose name carried more weight than most rappers could ever dream of.
Concerned about me or my well-being, they were just trying to cover their in case something went down and I got hurt.
In Texas, if someone wanted to greenlight a hit, it had to pass through him first. And according to people close to Pimp, that call was made. Someone from P's side allegedly reached out to get the go-ahead to eliminate him. But Prince wasn't having it. He shut it down immediately. No hesitation, no questions, just a firm no. That decision might have saved Pimp C's life, cutting off a conflict before it ever had the chance to explode. Even though J. Prince's words stopped things from turning into an all-out battle, the fact that the call was even made stuck with Pimp C forever. It confirmed every fear he'd been carrying, that the people he once worked beside might actually want him gone. To him, the beef with MasterP wasn't just a personal grudge anymore. It was proof of how dangerous the rap game could really get when power and pride mixed together. Years behind those walls changed him. He later admitted that prison drained him. Not just emotionally, but financially too. Even with solid people like Bun B and Jay-Z checking in, being locked up meant watching money vanish faster than it came in. He said it himself, the struggle made him angrier, more guarded, and harder to trust. But it also gave him perspective. When he finally walked out in December 2005, free after 3 long years, he came out carrying both the scars and the wisdom. That's why one of the first things he tried to do was make peace, to close the book on old beefs and start fresh. And surprisingly, one of the people he reached out to was MasterP himself. In later interviews, MasterP revealed that Pimp C came to him like a man and said straight up, "Big dog, I apologize to you. That was my bad. I was on pills." There was no ego, no excuses, just raw honesty. It was almost heartbreaking the way he owned it. The paranoia, the rage, the chaos, all that wild energy that once fueled their feud had been fed by stress, by pressure, and by the substances he used to numb it all.
You came to J. Prince to get permission to kill Chad, right? Yeah. And J. Prince like, no, we got a lot of money on the line. This is my guy, and they gaffled him up.
Mama West later confirmed it too. She said MasterP was one of the first people to call when her son came home. The two men talked it out. No more tension, no more pride battles. They let it go, closing one of the South's most dangerous chapters with mutual respect and peace. In the end, the two men even talked about working together again, trying to bring things full circle, back to where it all started. But even in that moment of peace, the shadow of the past still lingered. Pimp C had spent years convinced that someone wanted him gone, haunted by whispers, paranoia, and the trauma of being locked up while rumors swirled on the outside. Those kinds of scars never fade completely. They stay under the skin, quiet but permanent. The downward spiral had almost swallowed him whole. The jail time, the paranoia, the constant weight of distrust, it all pushed him right to the edge. But when he finally came home, he did something powerful. He tried. He tried to rebuild, to move past the pain, to live again. The beef with MasterP would always be part of his story, but for once, it was buried, finally laid to rest. The heartbreak was that peace didn't last long. Just when life seemed to be turning around, tragedy struck. On December 4th, 2007, Pimp C was found gone. Gone far too soon, only 2 years after his release. And years later, his beloved mother, Mama West, passed too. Together, they had carried the weight of so much pain, and now both were gone. Out of deep respect, MasterP rarely speaks about the incident today. When asked, he's always said the same thing. He doesn't want to tell that story while Pimp C and his mother aren't here to speak for themselves. That silence says it all. A wound healed but never forgotten. So what do you think? Was the peace between them real redemption or just unfinished healing? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like and share button, subscribe Spillhood for more untold tales and hip-hop history. See you on the next one.